When I work with couples, I ask the couples who have assembled, identify a conflict which you haven't been able to resolve, and let's see who's got the longest conflict that's been outstanding that hasn't been solved. And when we find that couple that have the longest conflict that hasn't been resolved, I'll bet you that we can resolve it within 20 minutes from the point at which both sides can tell me what the other party is needing in this situation. The couple that we found in all of these workshops that had the longest conflict that hadn't been solved had been married 39 years and had a conflict that started 6 months into their marriage. It involved money and checkbooks, and she had overdrawn the checkbook, and therefore her husband had taken over making checks and wouldn't let her write checks. And for 39 years, this had been a cause of great pain. So I said to them, now, if you can both tell me what your needs are and hear each other's needs, I'll bet you we can resolve this within 20 minutes. The wife said to me, Marshall, I can tell you right now we're not going to resolve this in 20 minutes. We've been talking about this for 39 years. And I said to her, hold it now. I didn't say we'd resolve it within 20 minutes. I said within 20 minutes from the point at which you can each tell me what the other party's needs are. She said, Marshall, when you've been married that long, you know what the other side's needs are. I said, okay, I may be wrong in my prediction, but it'll only take us 20 minutes to find out. Tell me what his needs are. He'll tell me what your needs are, and we'll see. She said, he doesn't want me to spend any money. And he said, that's ridiculous. Now, what she hadn't gotten clear yet is doesn't want me to spend any money is not what I mean by a need. That's what I call a strategy for meeting a need. Needs contain no reference to specific people taking specific actions. Needs are universal. All human beings have the same needs. So I hadn't made that clear to her, and I explained that what she expressed was what I would call a strategy. But it wasn't a need. So with a little bit more explanation, she thought she understood, and she said, okay, I understand. I'll tell you what his needs are. He's just like his own father. He has a depression mentality when it comes to money. So she was giving me an analysis of him, not realizing that that wasn't the answer to my question of what his needs were. So I could see that she really had no awareness of what his needs were, so I asked him, could you tell your wife what your needs are? He said, Marshall, she's a wonderful wife, a wonderful mother, but when it comes to money, she's totally irresponsible. And she says, that's not fair. Tragic, you see, tragic that we don't have a language of needs. We only have a language that implies wrongness when our needs are not getting met. So I helped him to translate his judgment of her as irresponsible with money into his needs. I said, are you having a need to protect the family economically? Is that what's involved for you? He said, yes, that's what I'm saying. Well, of course, he didn't say that. I said to his wife, could you tell me back what you heard your husband's needs are? And she says, but. I said, no buts. Just hear his needs. He thinks I'm irresponsible. See, she's now reacting to all the years she's heard that judgment. Now even when the need is expressed, she can't hear it. So I had to repeat his need 2 or 3 more times before she could just hear that simple sentence that his need was for safety and protection economically for the family. That was what was involved for him. And then I helped her identify her need, which is she had a need to be trusted that she could learn how to handle money differently than she had handled it when she had overdrawn the checkbook a couple times when they were first married. So she had a need to be trusted that she could learn. And I said to the husband, could you repeat her need? And he said, we'll be out of money by then. So it wasn't easy for him to let go of his images of her and just hear her needs. When I finally got the two of them to hear each other's needs, which took well over an hour, then it didn't take 20 minutes to resolve the conflict to everybody's satisfaction. So learning a language of needs is critical, but it's not easy given how we have been programmed. The fortunate thing is we don't have that many needs. The economist Manfred Max Neef, whose whole system of economy is based on getting human needs met, his way of evaluating whether an economy is sound or not is the degree to which it meets everybody's needs. So since his whole economic system is based on needs, he's done a lot of work trying to identify what are the basic needs that we have to fulfill. And we have to make sure everybody on the planet gets these needs fulfilled. And he comes up with the needs that I would word in my language. First, sustenance. We obviously have a need for things like food, shelter, protection from the elements, enough clothing to protect us, and so forth. So let's call those needs just basic sustenance needs. Then we have need for protection, safety. Another important need is for empathy. Most people don't know that word, but they call it understanding, and as we'll see later, I like the word empathy to differentiate it from just intellectual understanding. For me, empathy is really the human need. We'll talk about that later. And we have a need for honesty, clarity, to be able to trust that what other people say is really what's going on. We have a need for celebration, for play, rest, a need for creativity. We have a need for love. Now here is where people using nonviolent communication, they use the word love as a need. People who have other forms of communication often think of love as a feeling, and I'll talk about this later on. But the need for love is very important. Then we have a need for a community, a warm, accepting community. An important need is a need for autonomy, that we choose to do what we want, not have other people force us to do things. Need for autonomy. Look in the newspaper on any given day and see how many wars are going on around the planet in regard to this need. Human beings do not want other people claiming to control their lives. And we have a need for meaning and purpose in our lives. This is the need that Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, says is the most important need of all for our full humanness, the need for meaning, purpose. I use the words a need to contribute to life to refer to this need. So that's not that many needs that we need to be able to communicate and be conscious of. But we have to put our own language to those needs because it's such a vital part of our communication. We need to have a language for identifying our needs that works for us, that we feel connects us to our needs. But we may need to be flexible and find other words to communicate to our 4-year-old child. They have the same needs, but we may need to simplify the language. In a world where we're often judged harshly for identifying and revealing our needs, doing so can be very frightening. Women, for example, are often taught that it's their job as women to sacrifice their needs and take care of the needs of others. Men are taught that brave men have no needs. It's their job to do what the king or the leaders tell them to do, even if it means losing their lives. So these cultural images make it seem as though needs are needy, selfish, dependent. We have been educated to see that there's something wrong with us for having the needs. If we have that kind of idea that our needs are needy, dependent, selfish, when we do try to express our needs, we do it with an energy that often provokes a reaction to people which is not what we would like, and then only furthers our idea that there's something wrong with us for having the needs. So in our training, we show people how to have what I call a Santa Claus attitude when expressing your needs, to see our needs as a gift to others. It gives others an opportunity to see what's alive in us and to contribute to our well-being. So instead of expressing our needs with what I call a kick-me attitude, like, If we want some support from our neighbor in watching our children for a few minutes while we go and do something, instead of saying with this kick-me attitude that comes from thinking our needs are a burden, I know you're very busy and I don't like to bother you, but, I have something very important to do and I need some support in helping with the children. Would you watch them for a few minutes? You see, what an attitude. If we have that attitude toward our own needs, why would we expect other people to value our needs? So I suggest we express our needs with a Santa Claus attitude, that we have an awareness that our needs are a precious gift. So we go to the neighbor, ho, 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 you lucky person. I'm going to tell you about my needs for some support right now. One of the most touching experiences I had in a workshop that really revealed the depth of people's fears of expressing needs came from my mother. She attended a training I did, and some of the women were talking about how hard it was for them to express their needs, how they had been programmed to be so concerned about the needs of others that they didn't find it easy to find their own needs or to express it. My mother got up and went to the restroom, and it took her quite a while before she returned. I was starting to get worried about her, and then when she came out, I saw that she was very pale. And I said, Mother, are you all right? She said, oh, I'm okay now, but this conversation of the women talking about how hard it was for them to express their needs touched something very deep in me. It reminded me of a time when I was 14, and my older sister had an appendix operation, and one of my older sisters went to her in the hospital and bought her a little purse. And oh, how I would have liked to have had a purse like that. But as you know, my family was very poor. And if you asked for anything, you expressed any needs that might involve money, my older brothers and sisters would say, don't you know we're poor? Don't put any burdens on our parents by asking for something. So as much as I wanted that purse, it was so hard for me to even think of asking for one. And then I started to complain of pains in my side. And they took me to the doctors and they couldn't find anything, but finally they thought they would do exploratory surgery and take out my appendix in case it was a problem with my appendix. And they did. I had the operation, and now I was laying in bed, and my strategy worked. My sister that bought the other one a purse bought me one too. And there I was laying in bed with this purse. My pain in the side was obvious, but I didn't care about the physical pain. I got my needs met in a deep way by getting that purse. And a nurse came in and stuck a thermometer in my mouth. Then she left the room. Another nurse came in, and I held up the purse to show her I was so proud of it, and I said, meaning, look at my new purse. But the nurse didn't understand my message. She came over and said, for me, thank you, and took the purse. And I couldn't express my needs and tell her that I really would like it back. I didn't mean for her to take it. That story was very powerful for me. It helped me understand a lot about my mother that was irritating me. I could see that a lot of times how hard it was for her to express her needs, and the way she did it, I didn't realize just how hard it was for her to express the needs.